Now we're going to take a look at a view called fallibilism that is true. And if you don't know what this picture is all about, well, you didn't read the textbook, you should be ashamed of yourself and make sure you do the reading. But the man holding that paper is Harry S. Truman, former President of the United States. And notice what the paper says. The paper says, Dewey defeats Truman. Now this was kind of a big joke, because you notice it was in Chicago. What had happened is, as sometimes happens nowadays, the counting goes into the wee hours of the morning to figure out who's won the election. Well, I guess everybody went to bed being sure that the vote was going towards Dewey, and it ended up that they were wrong. And this tells us something about the nature of what's reasonable to believe in the connection with truth. And, let's suppose misled was a Chicago resident who got the newspaper in the morning after the election. Now consider the following propositions. Dewey won the election. Truman won the election. Right? And imagine, what is misled to believe? What's reasonable for her to believe? Well, she got the newspaper in the morning. It's reasonable for her to believe that Dewey won the election, correct? I mean, look, that's the evidence that she has. Was it true? No. But notice, the paper said that. She had no reason to believe it was a hoax. It wasn't a hoax. The paper usually reported, look, there were things, and maybe they were better in the old days. There are some minor issues that the papers get wrong, and then they later are forced to print retractions, but not who won the presidential election. So what was reasonable for her to believe was that Dewey won the election. Now, fallibilism tells us that a belief may be reasonable or rational even though it's false. And a belief may be unreasonable or irrational even if it's true. For example, in fact, let's back up for a second. How could a belief be unreasonable or irrational even if it's true? Well, think about the number of grains of sand on the beach at Kingsborough. Now, there is a number that numbers the number of grains of sand on the beach. I don't know what it is. Probably nobody knows what it is. God, if he exists, yeah, he'll know what it is, but none of us do. But that number is either even or odd. Let's say I believe that number is even. Well, I can't possibly have a reason for thinking it's even rather than odd, right? It's a 50-50 chance, kind of like that has. So that's totally unreasonable, irrational for me to believe either of those two propositions. Nonetheless, I could happen to believe the right one for superstitious reasons, for crazy reasons. Now notice, fallibilism is true in cases where you don't have conclusive evidence. And conclusive evidence, in contrast to fallible evidence, is so strong that it can never lead to false beliefs. So let's think, do we have conclusive evidence for most of our beliefs? Kingsborough is located on the bay. Do we have conclusive evidence for that? We have guarantee that it's true. Well, we've been there. I mean, that is pretty conclusive evidence, but maybe not. Maybe, it could be a hoax. We get tied up. We could be in the Matrix, right? So I don't know if it's conclusive, closer, but if you think of something like 2 + 2 = 4, certainly that we have really conclusive evidence for. So that our evidence for that one, for that mathematical proposition, guarantees the truth, its truth. So in that case, with regard to math, maybe we're not fallibilists, but fallibilism in general seems to be true, is that you can be rational in believing something, but nonetheless that thing is false. We're rational believing it because all of the evidence points in that, or the vast majority of the evidence points in that direction.